Hello and welcome back to the Battle Frontier podcast, where we aim to help you level up in your journey as a competitive Pokemon TCG player. I'm Aaron Curry. This is my second time doing this intro, and I'm here, as always, with my co-host John Orgel. And this week, we're going to be bringing you some information about some rules updates to the tournament handbook and how we think those things could impact events moving forward when they do end up arising. It's kind of a weird circumstance. It's for anyone who's not in the know, it's the open deck list thing. So we're going to spend a good bit of time talking about that. Hoping to keep this episode under 2 hours, which we have been unsuccessful in doing the past 2 weeks. So thank you for everyone who has listened and tuned in. We really appreciate it. After that discussion, though, we'll jump into Blaine's quiz show and close things out with just some quick predictions on Vegas. We're going to try to avoid doing a huge deep dive on the meta, given that, one, we've been in this format for quite a while, and two, we expect to do something very similar to that next week heading into LAIC. So without further ado, before we jump into our discussion of open deck lists and how that looks in the Pokemon TCG, what'd you get up to last week, John?
What did I do last week? I just did like stuff around the house too much. Sydney had a long week. She works at a food bank, and they've had a really tough time of it lately.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we just had a nice weekend where Saturday we just, you know, went out into Charlottesville, which is kind of like an hour west, and just looked at fall leaves and hung out at a cidery and played some board games and just chilled out. Just kind of got away from it a little bit. And then Sunday, just came back and tried to do some yard work. The weather was a little warmer than fall had been for the last few weeks, so I was able to get some yard work done, like just get stuff ready for winter.
Sure.
And yeah, now it's cold, so that was a good timing. I had today off. That was nice.
Yeah.
For Veterans Day. Thank you, veterans, for serving our country. Obligatory, but also necessary. And yeah, it's been a nice chill day. Kind of, I don't know, just didn't do a whole lot. Got lunch, like got lunch from Sydney's favorite place and brought it to her at work. So that was kind of nice. We had a little lunch together, and then yeah, just came home and cleaned up the house a little bit, and then just I don't know, read a book and watched YouTube videos. So
Hey.
not too much. Freaking PDCG Live was down for maintenance. So
Oh, today of all days too, right?
right, yeah, I was off today, and I'm like, oh, I get to play it live finally. Like, and that wasn't meant to be. So it is what it is. But yeah, it was a nice little weekend, and hoping to play in a league challenge tomorrow. So
Okay. What are you
that's
gonna bring?
that's the question. I have Zoroark and Dragapult built. Um, I've been trying to get better with Zoroark, but it hasn't been very successful.
Fair.
So I'll probably pivot back to Dragapult Dusknoir at this point. I mean, it's old reliable at this point for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it still works. And we'll talk about some of the metagame going into uh, Las Vegas this weekend. But yeah, for me, it's been like the deck I've been playing the most for the last 6 months. So I don't know. It's hard to pivot away from that. And I played like Golden Go, but I loaned that deck out to Omar, the junior I've helped out a lot. He, for whatever reason, like wanted to switch to Golden Go last minute. I don't even think he ended up playing it, but he needed the deck. And so I'm like, all right, you can take mine. And I haven't got it back quite yet. So we'll have him. Hopefully I'll get it back from him relatively soon. I don't plan on like I don't play enough to really need it, but it would still be nice to have, you know. But it's all right. But
Yeah.
anyway, um, yeah, that's about it. How have you been? I haven't really seen you since last episode. I mean,
Yeah.
I only
I've
see you
just been
once a
busy.
week. Yeah,
I've been busy, man. Got a lot going on. Spent most of the day today. I also was fortunate enough to have the day off of work and spent the day moving a bunch of stuff around the house, trying to clear things out, moving Brody from one of the bedrooms into a bigger bedroom, trying to give him some
nice.
more space as he's getting older, and just trying to move other things around as well, just to, make space for, life.
Mm-hmm.
And outside of that, again, baseball. I think I mentioned in one of the previous episodes, we had 3 back-to-back-to-back tournament weekends, and this was our last one. And the kids came out blazing on Saturday. I think across both games, gave up 8 runs and scored 32.
Dang.
Now
Wow.
it was crazy. And then unfortunately on Sunday we played against another team from the same city. So my son's team is based out of Oviedo, and kind of a, I guess you could say, a rival team that we played
Hmm.
against. And just one thing kind of led to another. Things started to snowball a little bit, and it went negative for them. And then our second game just got totally rained out, so we never got to finish.
Dang.
And but with that rain came some very unexpected colder weather. Like I saw a thing this morning from the Weather Channel that the last time it was this cold this early in November was in like 1993 for Florida. So we were down in the. I think our night temps are currently in like the 40s.
Wow. Almost like freezing for you guys. Yeah.
I know. It's really, really weird. But it's going to climb back up for the rest of the week. I think we're going to be back up there, and then I know later this week we're going to go with my sister-in-law and her family to um, Mickey's Magical Christmas or whatever it's called over at
Okay.
Disney. So that's going to be a good time. I know my wife's wanted to go for quite a while, so looking forward to that. It's going to be a pretty good week.
Nice, man. That sounds cool.
Yeah, still doing a little bit of Pokemon here and there,
Yeah.
trying, but like you said that we were talking a little bit before we started recording officially about how the format is starting to feel a little bit stale. I'm sure a lot of other people are experiencing that as well. And especially if you're not directly preparing for a tournament, it really digs into your drive to want to get on and play the same decks against the same decks with very little variability in people's deck lists. But still trying to find, the desire to do so deep down wherever it's hidden.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay if you're not preparing for an event. I feel like that's okay to have that lull to take that time off. Um, I- the downside is then when you get back to it, it is a little bit harder to get back up to speed.
Right.
It's like when you don't work out for a little bit, you have to like kind of the first time you work out, it's going to be brutal. And yeah, I can see that. Like I feel that when I play a new deck. Currently, like I've been playing the last like that's kind of why I'm pivoting back to a deck I know, just
Sure.
because like it's been so hard to learn a new deck, and I just haven't really had the time to just sit down and grind games or the want to be honest with you. Like I don't like I'm not preparing for regionals, so it's really difficult for me to like want to dedicate 4 or 5 hours out of my day to like just putting the reps in and writing notes down and like getting really into the nitty gritty. And I don't really just play live for fun like that. Like I have a hard time just sitting down and just like I'm gonna unwind and play some Pokemon on my computer. It just doesn't seem to happen. So I like playing, but I like playing in person more than I like playing online.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
the sentiment we both share. Um,
Uh,
oh, okay, my bad.
I don't know. I mean, I think that I enjoy Pokemon in either capacity. I think
Okay.
if I'm going to play with someone that I know, I would
Mm-hmm.
rather play in person if at all possible. But I don't really have a strong aversion to just playing games on TCG Live, especially if I want to play, a specific deck, especially if like I've never bothered to buy Sarah Ledges. So if
Mm-hmm.
I've really got an itch to play Sarah Ledge, I could go and just do it on live without having to worry about the cards, and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. And especially, I think the reason that I've almost become more accustomed to playing on live is that I just don't necessarily have the time to always go find someone in person or go somewhere to play against someone in person. And so it's just become more of a necessity to be okay
Yeah.
with live rather
Yeah.
than,
Curious, when was the last time you like made an appointment and like went to somebody's house or went to a league
oh
and played
geez.
somebody specifically?
Um
Like getting ready
Honestly,
for
the last time
Worlds?
that not even. It was probably NAIC that
Oh,
my friend
wow.
Santiago and I like made plans, met up, and went over somewhere in the Oviedo area. Actually, I think it was at Versus Games where I've done some casting for their League Cups. We met up there and played games, just grinding like Grimsnarl versus EV Box, Grimsnarl versus Gardevoir, EV Box versus
Mm-hmm.
Gardevoir, etc. And the other than that, it's been playing TCG Live, and that's just been like my primary means of testing because I don't have the free time necessarily to be able to dedicate to it. And so it's kind of, again, born out of necessity. This is the method that has borne, the strongest fruit for me so far.
Yeah, I get that, and I feel like um, I get that because like playing online, you do have the ability to just play somebody at your level or somebody that's been playing the deck that they're playing a lot more consistently than especially when you get to higher levels up on that ladder.
Hmm.
You do get quality testing in, and you do have a better use of your time. So I can see that. I do think there's pros and cons. Like,
Oh,
and
absolutely. 100%. Like not being able to rewind your game state is a huge deal and
yeah,
it's really annoying, especially when you misclick or whatever. But then the, side benefit is you don't have to worry about it. It's much easier to just, you know, rage quit your TCG live game and boot up another one than having to go
yeah,
through and reshuffle every single, like everything back together for your other game. Like you said, pros and cons for both of them. But
yep,
can't fault anybody for doing either of them. But I think that's enough, jabbering on. We can go ahead and jump into the first topic of discussion that we had here. And that would be this change to the tournament handbook, and specifically an update to this section regarding open deck lists at events. And so, for anyone who doesn't know, open deck list essentially means that both players are aware of the contents of their opponent's deck prior to playing the game, completely aware you know all 60 cards in your opponent's deck. And so the update here has specifically stated that during asymmetrical top cut, Masters Division players will have time to review their opponent's deck list, known as the deck list preview period, while setting up at the beginning of their match. And then they go on to define deck list preview, saying competitors will be provided a printed copy of their own deck list. This list includes all the cards present in their deck. The list must be provided to the competitor's opponent at the start of the match. Deck lists should be exchanged and reviewed while players randomize their decks for the first match of the game. This preview and all actions taken to set up for the first game must be completed within the 2 minutes outlined for the start of game section 7.4.5 in the TCG Tournament Handbook. You may not take notes while reviewing your opponent's deck list. If a competitor does not understand or recognize a card in their opponent's deck list, they should call the judge immediately for assistance. Deck list must be returned to the deck's
mm,
owner and put away before either player draws their opening hand. They can only be reviewed at the start of the match and must remain put away until the match concludes and the match slip is completed. And I think there's a few interesting takeaways from this. If you've ever
yeah,
played a limitless TCG online event, most of them are open deck list, and you are also free to reference your opponent's deck list at any time throughout the course of your games, whether it's a best of one or best of three. Whereas here, you only get to look at it one time during that 2 minute setup period.
yeah. What is the policy for team sheets with VG? Is it
I,
you can?
I think it's the same. I'm fairly
All
certain
right,
it's
I'm gonna
exactly
just
the
pull it
same.
up while we're talking real quick.
Yeah, sure, go
Just
for it. That is what it reminded me of though, when it said,
yeah,
"Hey, you get a 2 minute setup period. During the 2 minute setup period, you get to look at it." I'm like, "Oh, I'm pretty sure they just copied and pasted this over from the video game." But the inability to take notes during
hmm
the deck list review is pretty interesting to me. I wouldn't at all be surprised. A lot of strong players will find the important takeaways from their opponent's deck list and will probably just write those things down at the start of their first turn. Something like how many, boss or counter catcher, or do they play something like Iron Bundle? Do they play Jamming Tower? How many copies of Bravery Charmer in the Gardevoir deck? How many Rare Candy? How many Curlia? Do they play TM Evo? And something that you may, I mean, the TM Evo thing's probably not that big of a deal. It's probably not important enough to write down. And more so, it would be things that you would potentially forget as you approach the mid or end of your first game and would want to remind yourself of as that series is ongoing. Any
yeah.
luck
I
finding the
think
VG stuff yet?
I'm trying to let me just Control F open.
Or
Hold
team
on.
preview, I think is what they call it.
Uh, so, but okay. So while no pre-written or printed aids, including type charts, are permitted in the play space, competitors may take notes at any time during their matches, including during team preview,
Oh,
but
interesting.
must begin each round with a blank sheet. So they can take notes. So yeah, I think you do. Going back to team preview is 90 seconds.
So, well, okay, for context, team preview I think is different than what we're calling deck list preview in TCG. So,
Oh,
team
you're right.
preview is something built into the video game where you can see the
Okay.
list of your opponent's 6 Pokemon. and that's where you're like, because they have
Uh,
teams of 6, they select 4 to send out, and that's going to be a little bit different here. It's not like if we had sideboards or you're playing a multi-deck format, right? And instead here you're just viewing the contents of your opponent's list. My assumption is that the review being part of game setup is the big driving factor for why they don't want note taking, because they want to ensure that it adheres to that 2-minute requirement. Otherwise, you
yeah,
could certainly see players taking significantly longer than that.
yeah.
But
I don't hate it.
uh huh,
I think it's a good compromise on when we get to these levels of bigger and bigger tournaments and it's a name player. Um, One thing we've seen argued is that, hey, if I'm on stream early in the
exactly.
tournament, I lose that surprise factor to the point where now my opponents know what I'm playing and know exactly how, like, my counts of stuff and all that stuff. Um, it's interesting because it's like definitely. I think it's a good thing, but it's also just kind of, I don't know. I think if I'm playing the game, like, how much do I want it to be like limitless? I think it's okay to, like, just say, okay, I can remember. Can I take notes immediately after looking at the sheets? I probably could, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I'm
before we're
saying. As soon
yeah.
as your first turn
Sorry, I
starts,
guess I didn't
or
quite catch what you were talking about
like
because I had to
while
read.
like say you and I sit down for a game, we look at
Yeah,
each other's deck list. You go first on your first turn. I'm just going to immediately start writing notes down if I have anything that I found exceptionally noteworthy from your deck list. It's immediately going to go onto whatever I have for the rest of the series. But and
yeah,
to that extent, like it's a little confusing to me why can't they just keep the sheet there as a reference for the entire game?
yeah. Like, why is there an extra level of difficulty kind of involved with it?
Right.
Uh, I don't really know. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't seem like. Uh, what are we doing? Like, are we trying to? We're trying to make it to where we can um, have it more focused on just being able to play with full deck list knowledge. Why make this like a mini game where you now have to, like, see how much of your opponent's deck list you can memorize, like, all of their counts, like, oh, were they running 3 or 4 counter catcher, or 2 or 3 counter catcher, or,
Right.
you know 3 boss, 2 boss, like that kind of stuff. Like, it's, I don't know, man. It's just give me your opponents too. Like, just have my list. You can, yeah, whatever. If we're gonna do that, just here's my list. I can read your list. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And you just hold on to it, and when we're done with the game, you give it back.
Yeah. I mean, if you're playing in this format, do you think, like, if your opponent asks you point blank, like, how, I don't remember exactly how many. I mean, I don't think you give it to them. Obviously, I think if they don't remember it, then it's like, that's
Yeah, I
another
mean you're
aspect
you're
of it.
absolutely under no obligation to provide that
No,
information. But th-
you can't lie to
so
them, but you can just, not say how many of each card you have.
yeah, you just tell them I don't have to tell you that.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean that's by the same token, if you're playing with a closed deck list, which is what every single tournament has been up to now, outside of, like you mentioned, the edge cases of you know insert
Oh,
player, Tord as an example, goes on stream.
yeah,
Someone sits down and scrubs the VOD to try to determine 56 or 60 of his cards. Now theoretically he's at a disadvantage for everyone who plays against him the rest of the day, assuming that they have access to that information. And that's where I think they specifically have decided that ASIM is the level where they want to apply this. I guess
hmm,
another interesting talking point about it would it be worth implementing this for everyone in day two?
yeah. I think it would be good on one level. Yeah, I mean, like, that makes sense to me. Like, if it's a name player that you're worried about that their list gets leaked, I could see the advantage. The only thing would be, like, yeah, phase two starting on day one now. So do we,
Sure.
like, violate tournament integrity by not providing that before the start of the phase two in that first round? You know, is that, like, an actual issue? Um, but I don't think it. I don't know. I like the issue is, if I'm a name player and I'm playing, like, a really cool deck, and everybody wants to see what it is, and I get featured on stream round 4 or whatever, and then everybody just scrubs the VOD, like you said, and figures out 58 of the 60 cards, and then like knows my list day 2. I don't know. Um, I think this is a good compromise. I'm happy with going into top cut. Um, because otherwise, like then you have to really slow the tournament down. You're asking an extra. I mean, the players wouldn't be able to print out their lists. I think that the organizers would have to do it for them. Realistically speaking, just with Arcanine, like I guess you could ask players to print out lists, but like if you're traveling or I don't know, I wouldn't expect that. I would, and then now day 2 is 500 players, or not 500, but like over 250. That's a lot of lists, and then I mean VG does it, so it's not unheard of.
Yeah, and that's where that's my hang up for why can't this
Yeah.
be expanded further. Like, obviously, video game tournaments do have lower attendance than card game tournaments, at least at present, but they're still able to manage it with hundreds, if not thousands, of players. I think they also do it for all of their age divisions as well.
Oh, okay.
So, specifically, like this is only for Masters and only for ASIM and onward. So why
Mm-hmm.
would you? Actually, the way it's written, it also potentially could be interpreted as only applying to the ASIM round of Top Cut, which I think would be a little
Well,
ridiculous. It's it's got
yeah,
to go beyond that.
I would imagine it's ASIM beyond and beyond, but yeah, who knows? Um,
I
I
mean,
kind
you
of like it though. I'm a
right?
fan of this. Like
Yeah, I
this
mean,
this
like you've
allows, in theory, like players to have their match outcome not determined by how well somebody can scrub a VOD and like learn somebody's list before facing them. I
right.
mean, and people have been doing this for forever, right? Like even like
Well, even with
people
outside
would
of
figure
stream
out like
games, like
yeah,
you have
like
just regular old scouting, right?
yeah, exactly. Or you just before like NAIC finals or Worlds finals, people would scout the lists out and help the players prepare that way and like get reps in that way. Um, I mean that's pretty not uncommon. Like, and stuff leaks out. I mean that's part of the game too. So I think this is a good middle ground. Like you still want closed deck lists for the majority of the tournament, and then by the end of it, like when you've had you know maybe half of the top 8 already featured on stream, then it's really helpful to like kind of even the playing field up a little bit.
Sure.
So I'm a fan of it.
Yeah,
Um,
I can
yeah,
agree with that, and I get the logistical point that you brought up earlier. I still think I would like to see this expanded at some point to include all of Phase Two. Now, you did bring up a really good point, like when do you apply this? Because Phase Two starts on day one currently, and I think all circumstances so far. I don't know if any of them have been full Phase Two on day two, if I
no,
remember
I
correctly.
think everything's been um
9 rounds
8 rounds.
day one, 8 or 9
Yeah,
rounds day one, whatever the cutoff would be. Like
yeah,
insert phase one plus one round has been played
yep,
on day one every single event. So that does make it a little bit like kind of a sticky situation that might be a little bit difficult to navigate. But any way you implement this, there's going to be some level of growing pains, and why not just rip the band-aid off? Is my thought on it.
yeah,
Like if you
yeah,
don't want to fully apply it to every single player for the entirety of the event, I think cutting it down to the significantly smaller percentage that makes it into phase two is totally acceptable.
yeah. I
But
think
we're not
that's
there.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. Did you touch on the fact that you would have advance notice before you start the tournament? Like,
True. Yeah.
yep. So
I think I kind of
going back,
glossed over that.
that's fine. Yeah. So one factor that we didn't quite talk about was they're not going to spring this on you after the tournament has started and say, "Oh, by the way, everybody, here's your opponent's deck list." You'll know during registration, before the tournament starts, before like when you sign up. It will make notice of the fact that this is a open deck list for asymmetrical top cut. Um, Tournament, and I don't expect this to be at anything less than like it says, yeah, regionals and above. So don't you can implement this for like local stuff, but like league cups and league challenges won't have this. League cups definitely won't. Um, I mean they don't have ASIM already, so
Yeah.
yeah, don't have to worry about that.
But what
But
if?
yeah, that would be fun. I mean, in some ways, I think I don't know. Do you as a player, Aaron? enjoy like open decklist tournaments more than closed decklist tournaments, or is it really a big factor at all? Like, is this something that you think about much, or is it just like, well, I like playing Pokemon. I don't really care how I play it.
Yeah, I'm definitely in like the latter camp based
Yeah.
on like all the options that you gave. I like I can see merits for both, and I think one of the points that people have brought up is I'm trying to remember it correctly right now. It's that open deck list favors players and closed deck list favors deck builders, or it's something. I believe it's something along those lines, and that's where the idea of having a secret or a rogue deck is more advantageous. You can take towards Absol boxes like a prime example of this. If it's a fully open deck list, yes, people still may not have a fully like a great perfect game plan to play into the deck, but they will know what cards they're attempting to play around if they're able to look at the list ahead of time. And maybe that's not the best example because Tor did do some amount of Metafy
Mm,
classes, and the list was available if people were able to go beyond the paywall. And I think interestingly, we've also seen this trend. The past couple of events started with Emma Hagen prior to Gdansk, and now several European players heading into Vegas this week have already posted the deck list that they have submitted or are planning to submit for the event, and are just said, "Hey, I'm playing this." And I don't know if that's because this announcement was made, so people are just trying to get ready for that being an eventuality, or maybe they just have. A lot of players have recognized there's thousands of players at this event. It's very unlikely that specific players knowing your exact deck list makes that big of a difference in your overall tournament run, because you are unlikely to play against the people that would take the time to look at it.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like if I'm reading towards deck lists and I have 90 seconds while I'm shuffling to read this thing, and I'm like trying to what the heck does then I have to call a judge over to like ask what does Absol
Yeah.
Mega Absol do, and then yeah, like that's part of it. I mean, it's cool. Like, if I'm a control player, I think I love it, because
Oh,
control
absolutely.
thrives off of knowing exactly how many of each count like your opponent has. Like, I know how many switch outs you have, how many
Right.
Turos, how many bosses, and like counter
Or
catchers, and all the gust outs, and all the possible things I can try to play around and run
right.
you out of. I think that's huge. So
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And actually, I think that that's a great point. Like you might see more control decks be prevalent at events that are open deck list. But I don't know.
yeah.
I'm interested in seeing how this continues to develop, and if at any point in this season will they actually implement this, because we haven't seen it yet,
Mm.
and we're coming up. Toronto registration happens tomorrow. Maybe they'll make mention of it on that page, but every event prior to Toronto
True.
so far has not had any mention of this being a part of the event.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's will definitely be interesting to see. So all
Yeah.
right. So
So
just going back to VG real quick.
okay.
The part that it talks about, once both competitors are connected via union circle and have selected preparations complete, they should then exchange team lists. Team lists can be reviewed and referenced at any point throughout the match, so you can look
So
at
they
it.
just get to hold on it the whole time.
They just get to hold on to it.
Wow.
If either competitor does not understand their opponent's team list at this time, they should inform a judge immediately.
Interesting.
So yeah, VG just, I think, plays with their opponent's team list the whole time, which I think I like that. Like, yeah, like you know, I remember it wasn't always that way in VG. Like, at one point, it was closed team list,
Right.
and you
Yep.
didn't have that knowledge. So it would be fun to see. Like, I'd like to hear like a VG player's perspective on whether they like open team list or closed team list more. I get the impression that most of them probably like playing open team lists because
Hmm.
it encourages like strategy at a higher level rather than just like surprise factor and cheese. Like,
Yeah.
um, but
I think one of the
yeah,
other
I don't
big
know.
pushes was related to like Terra types and making sure people weren't trying to switch their Terra types between games. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
I'm
it's
not
because it's
gonna
pretty
I'm
easy
not
to
gonna
do
try
that.
to make any bold sweeping claims about it. But let us know what you think about open deck lists and how what phase of the tournament do you think they should be applied in the comments of this episode.
Yeah.
we can go ahead and jump over now to Blaine's quiz show. Yeah, so Blaine's quiz show this week. Apologies again. I believe I have forgotten the scores. I think that it's 8-12, maybe 7-12. I'm not entirely positive. I know John has 12. I don't recall my point total. I just know I'm behind. But if you
I
are,
think it's only 4. I'll give you 8 to 12, but
I'll have to go back and look it up,
we'll
and I'll
pop it up in a minute.
exactly. But if you haven't followed the show previously, it's a weekly quiz segment we do. John and I take turns asking each other a series of 3 multiple choice questions. Each correct answer will award the answerer with 1 point. If John is able to answer all 4 of these questions without the one hint that he has available to him, then he will earn an additional bonus point for the week for a maximum of 4 points available. And John is trying to increase his lead this week in the topic of Kanto starters. And
Okay.
so could be anything, right? It's a pretty broad topic, but we can go ahead and jump into the first question. And I just want to know, what is the name of Venusaur and Snivy GX's GX attack? And is it Solar Tornado GX, Solar Plant GX, Solar Beam GX, or Solar Smash GX?
Hmm. I don't think it's Solar Beam or Solar Plant, just because Solar Plant doesn't sound like an attack name. Solar Beam's almost like too obvious. Like that wouldn't be a GX attack. I don't know. I don't play. I didn't play the video games for this era, so I don't know like all the GX moves. Um, I'm gonna go with Solar Tornado, just as a guess, and probably get it wrong. But that's my answer.
Yeah, it was in fact Solar Plant GX. I included a
Oh
couple of
man,
these here. Like you caught
sure.
the obvious red herring with Solar Beam. I had
Mm-hmm.
Solar Tornado specifically because I remember Snivy learning Leaf Tornado.
Yeah.
I if I remember correctly, and Solar Smash sounds like a GX attack to me. It wouldn't surprise me if something had it, but I was definitely surprised that this was Solar Plant. And I actually thought that you were gonna slam dunk this one because you were a Sun and Moon guy.
No. Yeah. I I booted the I booted the game up on the 3DS and played through like 2 hours of it, and then I just put it down and never picked it back up.
Fair
So
enough.
yeah, yeah, that was a tough one because yeah, Solar Plant does not sound like a very
No, it sounds
cool
awful.
attack. It's not a good attack name. No.
No, 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 no. But anyway, we'll move on to a non-Venusaur question. I want to know,
Okay.
excluding base set, what is the most expensive English language Blastoise card? So I'm taking a
Mm.
page out of your book here, John,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
card prices, and these are prices current as of today. Veterans Day, November 11th, 2025. And your choices are Blastoise and Piplup GX Alt Art. I believe that's from Cosmic Eclipse. Forgot to include the set name there. We got
Hmm.
Blastoise number 4 from Expedition, First Edition Dark Blastoise number 3 from Team Rocket, or Blastoise EX XY promo number 122.
No, it's definitely not the promo. I can say that with confidence. Um, my gut reaction is like Blastoise Piplup, just because I know that card's very expensive. Cosmic Eclipse is just an insane. Like if you go back and try to buy cards from it now, it's so expensive. Um, I don't know enough to know about like Expedition. Is that an e-reader set? I think it is.
It is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's pretty expensive. It's not like Blastoise EX from that era or Blastoise like if it was. I mean, Dark. I think because it's not like a Blastoise Star or Blastoise EX or anything like that, and it's just a regular Hollow Rare. Um, I'm gonna go with Blastoise and Piplup Altart just because I know that card's expensive. I don't know what the other ones are, but I'm gonna lock that one in.
Okay. These are actually the 4 most expensive Blastoise cards following base set Shadowless Blastoise.
Hmm.
But it is not Blastoise and Piplup GX Altered. It is actually the Hollow Blastoise from Expedition. And
Yeah.
I can't give you a reason for that. It's an interesting artwork. It's like a, quote unquote realistic looking Blastoise where
Yeah,
he's less
EX like
cartoony.
e-readers were famously short printed,
Sure.
um,
Sure.
and they're very very just scarce, and especially to find like one in good condition now, because people didn't take care of their cards as well 20 years ago. or even longer than that now. I think, yeah, was it Expeditions like 04 or 5 or
Uh,
was it
Actually,
06?
2000. It's probably 2003.
Oh yeah, so over
Because
20 years at this
yeah,
point.
yeah.
So yeah, just for something to have survived, you know, the the lull and now come out near mint is pretty rare. I feel like for this and just the printing scarcity, that makes sense. I think that was like my second choice.
Well, I was a
But
little surprised that the Dark Blastoise was not higher than that, given that it's even older, right?
yeah, it's interesting. Like just from my knowledge of WotC stuff, they printed to death the first like base set jungle fossil gym heroes. Um, I think that first edition Dark Blastoise is what, Gym
Team
Heroes
Rocket.
or
No, it's
Team
Team
Rocket?
Rocket. Which was
Team
the
Rocket is a
yeah.
little less, but it's still more than I think Expedition. If I had to say
Oh,
like how much was printed,
okay. Well, fair enough.
because
I
the boom kind of falls after like
gotcha.
2000, 2001, 2002.
Okay.
So at least
Well, I'm
that's my
doing
knowledge. I could be completely wrong. If I am wrong, please correct me in the chat. I don't. I help out at a card shop. I don't actually like. I don't deal with a lot of older vintage stuff, so that's like my weakness. Um, so you know, that's that.
I finally exploited the weakness on John. He is 0 for 2 so far this week. Let's see if he
Oh
can
man.
earn himself a point
Okay,
with a more modern question for
let's salvage
Charizard.
it.
I want to know, if there were no deck list restrictions, how many different times could I write Charizard EX on my current standard format deck list? And your choices are 9, 10, 13, and 14.
Huh. Okay. Why would it be? Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So you're saying how many different variants of Charizard EX are in? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I
How?
mean, more or less. I don't know. I just thought this was an
Yeah.
interesting way to phrase the question.
All right. So you have from the newest expansion. Are you counting Phantasmal Flames?
No, because that is not Charizard EX. That is Mega
Uh,
Charizard EX.
okay. Thank you for clarifying. Okay. I mean, this card is tough because there's like a promo. There's Paldean Fates has one, just like the secret, and then the SIR from that set. Obsidian Flames has the base one, the full art golden one, uh, and then the SIR from that set. I'm up to 7. There's another promo. There's the one from 151, the IR from that. I'm gonna use my hint just to kind of whittle it down a little bit.
Okay, the number is larger than 10.
Okay. Yeah. Um. This is tough. Yeah, I think, and they had like the Ultra Premium collection with a couple Charizards in that. Um. Am I missing anything? I'm gonna go with 13. I think that's probably where I'm at.
Okay,
Just
13 locked in as your answer. You are correct. There
nice.
are
Finally got one.
there are 9 versions of the Dark type Terra Charizard from Obsidian Flames. Like you mentioned, there are 4 printings in the original Obsidian Flame set. There are 2 different promos, and then there is a reprint and an additional illustration rare in Paldean Fates. I don't remember off the top of my head what the ninth one is. And then there are 4 different artworks, 4 different printings of the 151 Charizard, because it has 3 in the main set, and that one also has a promo.
Mm-hmm.
So very good, John. 1 point for you. You will move
Yeah.
yourself up to a cool 13. Just like, hey, it was
Oh, there
almost
we go. Just like Charizard.
just like
Love to see
Charizard.
it.
You were at 13 in the current standard format. Thank you for playing, John. And I think that brings us into just kind of the last segment that we had for the week, which was just another series of predictions for what we envision happening in Vegas. And like I said at the top, we're not going to do a huge deep dive on like how the meta has been shifting and what we expect to see. And I think one of the reasons for that is, like I mentioned, we've got LAIC coming up where we'll want to look at things a bit more in depth, but we also a lot of the meta shifts that we've seen the past couple of weeks have been based on events in Europe, right? And I don't know how much those results are really going to translate over into Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, we can pull some stuff from Europe and from Limitless, like online tournaments, I'd say. The main thing I think is the resurgence of Dragapult Dustnor in the last few tournaments. It seems to be a little bit. I don't know. It's interesting, right? Like this is kind of the cycle we've been going through for the last few months. We saw like Dragapult Dustnor do well before this format, and then at the beginning of the format, it kind of died out as Jellicent Gardevoir rose up, and the Absol box had a real answer for it with not being able to like do much with hard counters being played for the duck. Like the duck was being played in a higher number, and then once Dragapult Dustnor fell off out of all of that. Like after Milwaukee, we didn't
Mm-hmm.
really see any of. I don't think anybody made cut. I might be mistaken, but it didn't do well. If even if one made cut, it was really not well positioned. And then Ian Robb had the tweet. This is the best format for Dragapult Dustnor, and sure enough, like that weekend in Europe, um, it had a real resurgence, and that kind of carried into the next week. And the question is that still hold true for the North American cycle? Like, are we on the back downswing now? Are people going to start picking up decks that hard counter Dragapult Dustnor and play the side duck and have real answers for that? And I'm convinced. I think they will. Like, I think you know we've had Dragapult Dustnor fans eat for a little bit. Um, and I think now it's just going to get a little bit harder for them to really find success and find purchase again. It's still a good deck. Like if you've been playing it, like if you've got that sunk cost fallacy, like I would probably ride that out until it doesn't really work anymore. At least you know you could still make top cut, but maybe not win. It would be more challenging to win. So, but I mean, even if you are not well positioned, you still have a really powerful deck. You still really have the tournament results now to back that up, and the confidence to take that deck and say, all right, I can outplay my opponent a lot of the time. Like I can, Badu cheese early into Dustnor and Phantom Dive KOs and really just have all the answers for everything and not really be affected by all the cornerstones and all that kind of stuff that collaterals and just deals with other decks. You're just like, I don't really care about that. So still a good deck, but I don't think it will be as well positioned as it was in Europe for the last two regionals. But I'm interested to see what you think about it.
Yeah, Dragapult. I don't know, man. I've just never been the biggest fan of the deck. Obviously, Phantom Dive is or has been and continues to be one of, if not the best single attacks available in the format. But the fact that Dragapult has always had to play a fair game in terms of energy attachments and has attempted to, you know, circumvent that fairness by playing unfair mechanics in the form of Badu and Dust Noir, but you just don't have any room to really fit anything else into your deck to tech for matchups that may otherwise be poor for you. And you're just hoping that kind of the raw power of the cards that you're playing is enough to carry you over the finish line.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that I think Dragapult does worse in NA than it does over in Europe, specifically because
Okay.
I think we'll have more Gardevoir. Maybe not more as a raw number, but a larger percentage of quality players playing the deck. People that truly understand the deck inside and out. Obviously, Henry Chow, Aban Ahmed, maybe Isaiah Bradner shows up. Ian Robb, I think, tweeted Gardevoir EX this week. And so if he's going to Vegas, there's a decent chance that he's playing that. We've got a lot of strong Canadian players that are very much so Gardevoir players at this point. Rowan Stavinow. I know Kieran Farah has been playing it off and on, um, as well as Anil. I can't remember Anil's last name off the top of my head, but just a lot of strong players from all over NA really have enjoyed Gardevoir extensively, and that's not to speak ill of anybody over in Europe, but I do think that the North American Gardevoir heads are the best Gardevoir heads in the world.
That's fair to say. So, just to make a prediction real quick, how many Poltnors will make top cut? I'm predicting two. I don't think it'll be quite the numbers you saw in Europe, but I still think it's a powerful deck. Where do you think you land, Aaron?
So is that for ASIM or top eight?
Yeah, ASIM.
Um, I could still see two in there. I mean, I do think
Okay.
it's going to be played in relatively high numbers. I do think that in some degree, the European results will influence the decision of a lot of players to maybe be more confident in playing the deck. Because I know it was definitely down in Milwaukee, right? Like
Hmm.
it was, I think Milwaukee and even heading into Lille, the deck had dropped pretty significantly back from where it used to be an over 10% deck. It had dropped to, I think, 7, maybe 8%. And I wouldn't be surprised to see it back up at that 10% mark. And so I
Okay.
think that that just gives you enough quantity to get it into the line of getting two of them into the top, I don't know, let's say 13 ASIM players.
Yeah. All right. Touching on Guardy, I mean, you said that a lot of top players will go back to it. It's just question is, what variant of Guardy do you think is going to be more
Mm.
popular? Do you think it'll be the Jelly Guardy variant or kind of the more attacker, like the less disruption item lock focused, more attacker focused with Screamtail and I mean, I guess Jelly Guardy runs Screamtail, but you know what I mean, right? Like the Drift Bloom and maybe possibly Mega Guardy variant over Jellicent.
Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna give you a non-answer here, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
say I think that we'll see a deck list that actually is somewhere in the middle. And so
Okay.
we've seen decks come out like not necessarily hybrid Gardevoir builds, but ones that are tech to beat metagames, where you've got things like the Turbo Energize or the Enamorus, or just these cards that you wouldn't necessarily think should be included in the deck, making their way in there through the extensive testing of the Gardevoir crowd. And I think that right now Drifloon is very well positioned for the deck, but I also think that Jellicent is very well positioned for the deck. So while it is difficult to accommodate both of those concepts, it is possible. And I think that if somebody's able to navigate things well, that we could see that be very successful.
Gotcha. So continuing in with decks that have done well in the last few weeks. In Europe, we really saw a resurgence of Golden Go. I know that that's not your favorite deck, but it got first and second, I believe, in Gdansk, right?
Second was Flareon.
Oh, that's true. But it got first,
Yeah.
and it did
And
really
top four.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did really well. And I'm interested to see if you think that'll continue for Vegas. Do you think people will high roll and try to strike it rich, make it rain, if you will, with the string cheese man? Or my prediction, I guess my question is, how high do you think Golden Go will go for this Vegas regional?
I think we'll see one in top eight. I do. Like, again, a lot of Pokemon players are very much so results oriented. And seeing Goldengo continue to do well, you have a good base list to go off of with what Daniel Magda played. And I believe Daniel Magda, Christian Fontenot, their lists are a couple of cards different. And we've also seen another list that was posted by, oh my gosh, who is it? Another high level player from Europe posted a list that they said they were planning to bring to Vegas this week. And it's a pretty solved deck, right? You can't do a ton to play with it. The one nice thing people have discovered to make a Mawile as a cornerstone
Mm-hmm.
answer, and I think that that helps the deck out a lot with matchups that were otherwise largely unfavorable. It's got a very good Mega Box matchup, especially now that it has a cornerstone answer. If you're playing, two copies of Turo or a Turo and a Palpad in conjunction with just the ability to one hit KO these Mega Pokemon, that matchup looks great. Gardevoir gets a little bit iffy depending on what variant they're running, and Dragapult obviously has the potential to run you off the board now that a lot of these Goldengo decks aren't playing Picnic Basket outside of Daniel Magda's
Mm-hmm.
list. So depending on what matchups you want to tech for, you may or may not be as successful. You do have the benefit of that Luna Rock package now to kind of try to run people off the table with a single prize boar state while also providing yourself with that additional consistency. I'm still not a fan of the deck though. So I do think that we'll see one in top 8, but I think it'll fall down there.
That's fair. I think I'll do one better and do top four. I mean, we have a lot of top players playing it. Like if it was less top players playing it, I think Daniel Magda saying, is Daniel Magda going? Is that
That I don't know. I'm
Yeah, I
not
guess
sure
it'll
honestly.
be interesting to see how many Europeans come over. I know we're having a large contingent from like all over the world for this one.
Right. Especially
It'll
because
just really
they're
depend on like what top level players play, and I think
sure.
we'll see some Europeans come over and play Golden Go. Um,
So
yeah, I think
speaking on that,
yeah,
that
go
I
for it.
feel like in this format, especially as it's gone on and dragged on longer and longer, I think that rather than a specific deck being super well positioned in an event, it is more so become extremely evident that the amount of preparation that people are putting in, and this is has been the case largely for many formats, but it becomes more evident in these extended ones where it doesn't matter what deck you put in the hands of Henry Chow. If he's played 300 games with it, he's probably going to be better than Joe Schmo that just picked it up yesterday. And,
For sure.
you know, when you take that to the nth degree with something like Gardevoir that he's literally played since last year, it shouldn't surprise anybody that he continues to make these deep runs and is able to go all the way with the deck. And when the deck hasn't had to shift too much throughout the course of this format, we see players who are on these decks that they played for a long time, like Henry with Gardevoir or Emma Hagen with the Flareon deck, and they're able to kind of get the most out of the deck, even though the deck hasn't changed very much. It's not like they're doing something crazy innovative. Now, granted, Emma did have Jet Energy in her Flareon deck. That's a little different from what people were doing at the time, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem like people are doing anything crazy with their deck lists, and rather it's just the top player factor is being shown kind of in full force throughout this format so far.
Yeah, I really think that's a fair thing to say. Um, we've seen just players playing whatever they're comfortable with and doing well, and I think
Hmm.
that's exciting in its own way. It might be harder. It's harder for a player to like just pick up a deck and say, "Oh, I'm going to do well with this because it's a Tord deck," and people aren't ready for it. Like that might work for once in a while, but yeah, I think that really shows a good meta game in some ways is that you can't just cheese wins because people aren't prepared at this point. Um, I don't know. I don't
Unless you're
mind that.
unless you're playing Crustle, right?
Yeah, obviously, if you have a deck that people just don't have answers for,
Sure.
it's a little different. But that's okay. Like I don't know. That's kind of is what it is. Like if you lose to it, like the worst feeling is like if you lose your winning into day two or to money or something like that because you go up against Crustle and you just don't have an answer. Like that's when
Yeah.
it's
No,
those
that is
meta.
awful.
That's when those meta decisions really like feel bad. Uh, so that's tough.
So I've got
But
I've got a prediction question for you. We saw at the beginning of this format, Sarah Ledge had risen up and was one of the most prominent decks in Milwaukee in the
mm-hmm.
entire field, and unfortunately, kind of had flopped from there and has steadily declined in play rate since then. But we do have a number of players that are still, showing that they think that the deck is largely playable or maybe is even a good choice. Like we saw as recently, I think it was over the weekend, Azul played Sarah Ledge in it was either a late night or a tournament of doom or one of the big online limitless events and took the whole thing down.
Yeah,
And
the
so I
Tournament of
want to know,
Doom. So
okay, I want to know
on November
what,
7th.
how deep do you think Sarah Ledge is capable of going in this event?
Uh, I'm not a believer on the deck. I know that it is a strong deck. And I mean, if you give it to a good player, and that's just the question though, is like, what good player is going to play it? Like, is Azul going to pick it up and play it now that he did well with it? Then I could see it getting into like top four even. And I know Ross Cawthon will play it if he's there.
Sure, yeah.
I think I'll pick ASIM. I'll pick it to make top cut. That's kind of where I'm at with it. Like it's not a bad deck, but I don't see it steamrolling the competition. I think one will sneak into ASIM though. So
I think I mean, that's a fairly fair assessment. Like,
yeah,
it kind of goes back to is it the deck or is it the player? And Sarah Ledge gives you less room to be the player, I think, and that's one of the kind of shortcomings of it. But some of that potential is there. I know I watched a couple of the games that from Azul's tournament run, and just doing things that I don't see a lot of ladder Sarah Ledge players doing, like promoting a Soul Rock or a Lunatone instead of your next Char Cadet to allow yourself to get an additional energy into your discard pile.
Hmm.
And these aren't mind blowing plays, but they are little incremental advances in your game plan that the average player may overlook.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. Yeah, I mean that's the cool thing. Like you can play a less skill intensive deck, but play it to a level that elevates that deck to an even higher level. I mean, Caleb Rogerson won with Raging Bolt. Like you've had back when that was in a skill intensive deck. We've had players like I think Azul's the Pikachu, uh, like the
Oh,
what
the
is
Flying
Arceus
Pikachu
Peak? Yeah, Flying
VMAX?
Pikachu
Yeah.
V Max. You're not going to tell me that that's very skill intensive, but he's playing it to a high enough level to where you can really showcase the strengths of the deck, showcase his ability as a player. Answering your prediction, I said asymmetrical cut. Where did you say?
I'm going to give you top 128.
Oh, okay. All
No,
right.
no, 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 no. That's wrong. That's wrong. Top 64.
Okay. Okay.
Top 64
We'll
for
miss
Sarah
out
Ledge.
on cash, but
No, no,
still,
no cash for them.
that's fair.
Somebody like if I really had to like bullseye it, I'm going to say like 37th place is will be the highest Sarah Ledge.
I'm gonna write that in brackets just to see. It'd be funny if you get it just on the
just
number.
just win the predictions on the spot if I get the right
Yeah,
number there.
for sure. I think we joke that Azul can take anything and do well, but I think he's really had an affinity for Sacrilege, and I think him doing well. It is interesting. People will just pick it up and play it, and it's one of those decks that you can play to a high enough win percentage if you hit enough golden go. If you hit what you need at the right time, it's a relatively easy, straightforward deck
Yep.
compared to some of the other ones we've seen. So I could see like if we just get a huge meta percentage of Sacrilege for Vegas, it could just sneak in, have it one of them will have a deep run.
Yeah.
Um,
The biggest advantage of the deck, in my opinion, is that it is the deck that best utilizes Lunatone and Sol Rock. I think that it 100% utilizes it better than either Mega
yeah,
Lucario or Goldango.
yeah, I agree. It definitely is the case. Like, yeah, just the it feels like the Soul Rock Lunatone just feels weird in Golden Go because
Yes.
it doesn't fit the strategy in my mind. Like you want to have a lot of energy in hand, and discarding energy doesn't really fit with that. Like you want to build your hand up, but most of the time you just want to have playable cards you can either discard or um, for like discard with SCR superior energy retrievals to get energies back. You really just want to be doing that. Like that's what you want to be doing. You don't really want to be discarding energies. And so like Sacrilege, you want to be discarding energies. It fits in that strategy. It slots in perfectly for that. And then it does cover like one of the weaknesses of Sacrilege is you just don't have a good non-EX attacker. There's
Yep.
no good non-EX Sacrileges right now. Um and so like that just solves that. So um yeah, I think those are the main. Let's look back at the meta percentages for Limitless. So
Like the
Sacrilege
ones.
has kind of climbed up a little bit there, but they're all pretty straightforward. Like nothing's over 8% right now
Okay.
online. Dragapult Dusknoir is right at 8%. Then the next one is Gardevoir at 6.7. And that is Gardevoir not grouped with Jellicent. So if it was Gardevoir grouped with Jellicent, I don't know if I don't think I can group them.
No, I
So
don't think for
Gardevoir grouped
online
with
you can. Yeah.
no, Gardevoir with Jellicent would be over 10%.
Right.
So take that for what you will. And then you have Sacrilege, then Grimmsnarl Frostlass, which is interesting that that's so high. Do you
People
think
love
that's a
playing it
good?
in online events.
Yeah. Do you think that'll be represented well in Vegas? Like
I
I,
don't. I
I
actually
don't
think it's
either.
going to be off the meta graphic. I still
Mm-hmm.
think that it's a better play than people give it credit for, but it's again something where this brings me back to the top players choosing to play decks. I think the fact that we don't have a ton of top player representation for Grimmsnarl is one of the reasons that it's not
Mm-hmm.
been able to make as many deep runs. We obviously saw one make top four last week in Gdansk, or 2 weeks ago now, and also another one in ASIM for that same event. The only reason that they both didn't go further was because they had to play each other in ASIM. Um, but we've also seen the rise of a non-Grimsnarl Frostless Monkey Dory deck. All Up Blitzel had a
Mm.
list that I think he won his own online tournament with during this format, and I wouldn't be fully surprised to see a few people pick that up, but it's probably going to be such a low percentage that it won't necessarily be able to make the deep run that it needs to. It's just they've both of the Frostlast decks in my mind feel like they're in kind of a weird spot where representation is the thing that's holding them back more than their true viability in the format. But if people aren't choosing to play the deck, that has to be due in some part to its overall level of viability, I suppose.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I don't think it's that. I mean, looking at the limitless data, if you look at the win percentage, it actually has a higher win percentage than Gardevoir, Sacrilege, Dragapult, Dusknoir. Like, it has a 53 win percentage, and you have to go down to Golden Go Lunatone to see that again. Um,
Okay.
so I think that's pretty interesting. It's pretty high considering, like, we have enough sample size now, I think, to make that an accurate prediction. Like, with 1,000 and close to 1,800 games played with it. It has a pretty high win percentage. Let's see. This is online results, so take that for what you will. Like, I think, but like, it does okay. It has three first place at tournaments of 200 or more people. Um, so I don't know. It's not bad. It is interesting to see, like, I think it's under, like, relative to the strength of the deck. I think it's underperforming because I think it's a lot stronger than. I mean, maybe I'm biased now after listening to you bang the drum for this deck week after week, but I don't think that's. I think, like, we've seen, like, in EU, and when a player like Mike Ellis, or, like, I forget his name, makes top four with the deck. We're just not seeing people pick it up and, like, be excited by that. I think you have to be like
Right.
a loyalist from day one with this deck. It's, like, very unforgiving, very, like, if you aren't placing damages correctly, and just, you can get punished very easily with it. I feel like, compared to, like if you're attacking too early, or if you're putting the wrong damage on the wrong thing, and then now my Devo play doesn't work because they healed off this with that or something like that. But, like, people are cutting. Like, I don't think, maybe, I don't know. From my perspective, people aren't really respecting it as a deck
Sure.
still. It does get collateraled by, if people think Pultnor is going to be really popular, and the damage spread, people, like, start teching in Picnic Basket and stuff like that. Um, it could be affected by that, but I think this could be the weekend for that. Like,
Yeah.
you know, if Gardevoir is really popular, I think you're in a really good position with the deck, right?
Fully agree. Fully
Yeah.
agree. But
So
I've been saying it for weeks, man. And like you
yeah, I
said,
know.
so we did see a top 16 plus a top 4 for the deck. Maybe that will entice some people to pick it up, but I'm not going to hold my breath on it. I think it'll still probably be, 6%, maybe 6.5. But I do
So
think
I guess my
I
question, if we're gonna do
we're going to see.
prediction,
I'm going to
go
put
ahead.
one. I'm going to put one in top 4 again.
Okay.
I would love
My
to
my
see it win the event, but I don't think it's going to happen.
my prediction question is, what dark deck does the best on the weekend?
Oh, Grimsnarl, 100%.
So, over Mega Absol Box,
Yep.
Charizard,
Charizard.
Pidgeot,
Yep. Yep.
and what's the other one? And Zoroark, you're gonna pick
Mm.
Grimmsnarl.
Zoroark's an interesting one.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I had forgotten about it, and now it's like we've got Liam might be going to the event. Piper might be
Piper.
going to the event. There's a few other people. I think Cal Connor was playing Zoroark last week in Gdansk
Mm-hmm.
and made ASIM or last tournament. No, I'm gonna stick. I'm gonna stick to my guns.
Stick
I'm
to
gonna
your
say
guns.
Grimmsnarl.
All
Yeah,
right, I respect it.
I'm willing to be wrong on this one.
I'm gonna probably pick whatever you are afraid of there, and pick Enzor. I just think it's a really good deck. I mean, Charizard makes a lot of sense too.
Sure.
If I just don't. I don't. I'm not a huge believer in Charizard, but I like Enzork.
I'm
I
not
see
either.
the
I mean,
vision.
we did see Charizard win Milwaukee.
Yep.
Is there enough there for it to continue to do that? Maybe, but I don't know. It's Charizard itself is actually in a pretty interesting position in my mind because you don't have the best Cornerstone answer in the world, but the decks that were initially playing Cornerstone are now highly incentivized not to play it because most of the decks that they were winning matchups against with that card now have answers for it. So Charizard
Right.
gets to kind of skate around that, but the big advantage for Charizard was the decline of Dragapult. And now that Dragapult's back, is Charizard just going to fall back by the wayside like it had previously? And my answer to that is yes. That's why I don't see Charizard going super deep this weekend. Maybe we'll have one that makes a good run, which is exactly how Jackson did it to begin with. So,
Mm-hmm.
could happen again. Just dodge Dragapult all day and make it really deep into the event. But I do think that deck is being hated on pretty heavily with Dragapult. I think the Absol box is being hated on pretty heavily with Goldango. You could argue Grimmsnarl is being hated on with Goldango, but I think to a lesser degree than the Absol box
Yeah.
is. And Zoroark is also being hated on pretty heavily by Goldango. Not the best matchup for you in the world. You can try to do some stuff kind of like what Piper did with the Darmanitan in the deck again. Not sure how effective that truly is in the long run if your opponent is able to kind of play around it and just keep the Darumakas off the board. But I don't know. I'm probably just trying to talk myself in circles to arrive at the fact that I think Grimmsnarl is the best positioned one.
I think Enzork probably edges it just a little bit. I think they're both really good, but yeah, I think just the high level of players playing Enzork, there seems to be a lot of players that are doing really well that are kind of
Sure.
that's their deck for this format, and I respect that. And I think I go with that because of that. So, but getting into high level players, I guess to round it all out, I mean we could keep going. There's a couple other decks we didn't talk about, like
Yeah,
you
but
know
we'll save them for next week.
yeah. We'll do a full recap, getting ready for LAIC. Maybe do a tier list going into LAIC. We haven't done one of those in a while. Um, but speaking of top players, my favorite prediction: what top player do you predict will do the best? Like, let's pick one player. Like, pick your horse. I guess maybe not. That's probably not the best way to phrase that. But pick your player you think will do the best for Las Vegas. If we got to gamble, I need you to come up with your wager here.
Okay. I picked a Bond last time, so I'm gonna pick somebody different, even though I do expect a Bond to do well. There's another player who was doing really well last year, and I don't know why I'm not just picking someone like Henry or Liam or
It's more
Jackson,
fun when you don't, right? Look
but
at the
I'm
Brad
gonna I'm
Chris
gonna
yeah
go
pick.
with I'm gonna go with Owen Dalgard.
Okay, I like that. I like that. He's pretty good, yeah. I think I'm gonna go with kind of an East Coast player as well. Um, you know, I guess with the theme of luck, um, this player historically has been the least lucky player, and I think going to Vegas, his luck finally changes. It took Pokemon moving to the Sin City, the gambling capital of the world, for Grant Manley to do the best he's ever done at a regionals, and I think if not take it down, make it really far this weekend. So I'm gonna give Grant the nod. He's gonna come up with some fun stuff now that the format's established. He'll have a spicy pick for this weekend. So that's my he'll spin the roulette wheel and finally have it go his way for once. So
Well, it'll be interesting to see. If you are listening to the episode prior to this weekend, let us know who you think is going to win the event down in the comments of the episode below. I think I finally got word back from Spotify that one episode, I want to say it was episode 8 of season 2 that had been taken down for the intro music for whatever reason, is finally back on Spotify. So for anyone who was partially through that, you can go back and listen to it now, or you can always go find the show over on YouTube. Battle Frontier Podcast is the YouTube channel name. If you want to connect more with John and I, you can find us on socials, or you can follow the show on socials as well. It is at BFTCG Pod. over on X, and I am at _Aaron_Curry. You can find John over on Blue Sky at johnorgel.bsky.social.
Mhm.
And we will be back next week with some more information about the metagame, including the results of this Las Vegas regional and how we think the overall package of all of the events that we've experienced in the Mega Evolution format will influence the results of the Latin American International Championship down in Brazil.
Very excited for that. So stay tuned.